It's a woman's world. When she's in love, it's a woman's world. His kiss can make her glow. And that's what makes it so.
It's a woman's world.
It's a woman's world. Stars dance above, it's a lovely world. His footstep at the door just proves it more and more. His hopes, his dreams, and his ambitions, all the ups and downs she'll gladly share. She'll give her all without conditions. When he looks around, she'll be there. It's a woman's world. Ask any man, it's a woman's world. And he's so glad it is. For when it's hers, it's his. It's a woman's world, but only because it's his.
For the benefit of those of you who do not recognize what you are seeing, this is New York. Beautiful from the air, isn't it? Beautiful and exciting. A city of 8 million men and women who live and love and sometimes fight each other to the death to get where they want to go. Only to find out when they get there, it wasn't where they wanted to be at all. This is my building, the Gifford Building. The Gifford Building houses the executive and home office staff of Gifford Motors, manufacturers of the car our advertising agency describes as luxury on wheels. It seems to me that our advertising campaigns are designed to appeal to the snob in everyone. This is the car I manufacture, the Gifford. And here am I. My name is Gifford. This is the very newest Gifford. As you see, it is a convertible. It has been designed to convert your bank account into our dividends. In case you don't know enough to come in out of the rain, this car does. At the first drop of moisture, these plastic panels close automatically. I do not suggest that we're hoodwinking the public, but this hood actually winks. It might interest you to know this car has 666 pounds of electrical equipment, connected by 8 miles of wiring. This little red job has only 7½ miles of wiring. I shall ignore it. Yes, Gifford Motors is quite a company, the largest and most successful in its field. Everywhere in this country where wealth is centered, in the center of that wealth is a district office of Gifford Motors. I inherited this highly profitable beehive from my father. He would be proud, I am sure, to hear me say that I have increased his fortune 5 times over. Yes, It's a healthy, busy company. Except in here. This is the office of the late and honestly lamented Philip S. Briggs. As general manager of Gifford Motors, Mr. Briggs' salary was $125,000 yearly, plus an outrageous expense account. He was worth every dollar of it. Nothing on earth could interfere with his devotion to his work, not even his doctor. So now, this chair is empty. I must fill that chair with another man of equal ability. I'm bringing to New York the 3 brightest men in our organization. I've also invited their wives, who will be observed closely and relentlessly. They will arrive here today, and primeval though the thought may be, may the best man win. Or should I say, may the best wife win.
Oh, there's a train.
Yeah, it looks about the size of the one I gave Davy for Christmas.
Yes. Now that you're in New York, you'll get a chance to play with it.
Now listen, Carol. While you're in New York, you just be Mrs. Talbot. You let me handle this my own way,
All right. I like being Mrs. Talbot.
Well, traffic's thickening up. We must be getting close.
I can wait till we get to the hotel.
Yes, but you also can't. You better take every opportunity you have to be nice to it. With 5 days of social life in New York, it may talk back to you.
No matter what you think, Liz, this isn't social, it's business. One of us is going to get that Briggs job. That's the reason Gifford invited us here, believe me.
Have it your own way. I hereby nominate you for the rat race.
Please, Liz, remember your promise, won't you? If Gifford knew we were separating...
All right. I'll play the loving wife. I can remember the part.
You were pretty good at it when you first started playing it.
That was when I was your only wife. Before you decided you preferred to be married to your job.
Is it such a crime to work hard, to have some ambition?
It means killing yourself, yes.
Oh, Liz, I wish you wouldn't make so much of that. So I've got one small ulcer. It'll be over in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Liz, we're coming back to New York. Where we met, where we got married. For 5 days, couldn't we just pretend that... Well, we're almost there. Look, you can see daylight.
I saw daylight years ago.
Good day, sir.
Bill, this is awfully big for the two of us. I'd get lost in here. Couldn't we find something smaller?
Oh, well, it's... Honey, this is on the company.
Oh.
Hey, Katie, you're in New York. Aren't you excited?
Well, I feel better up here than I did down on the street. You know, every time I look up at those tall buildings, I'm afraid they're going to fall on me.
It's funny you never came here with me before.
It's funny about being pregnant all the time.
All the time.
Oh, no, I meant the first few years of our marriage. Besides, where could I go with 3 children screaming for attention all the time?
Oh, honey, you could have gone anywhere you wanted to.
Well, you know I wouldn't leave them with anyone but Mrs. Bruce. We didn't get her till this year. You know something? I feel very wicked being all alone in a hotel room with you.
Well, now, if you start feeling that way, we won't be alone long.
You know, I can understand how a poor, lonely girl could be led astray in a suite like this. Why are we here?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm serious. Why are we here?
Well, you read it in the company magazine yourself, honey. I'm one of 3 district managers whose territories were tops in sales efficiency.
Yes, I know. Well, are they thinking of promoting you?
Well, now, what's wrong with being promoted,
Well, I mean, promoted here to New York.
Now, what would you think of that?
Well, I think that was terrible.
Well, then, let's not think about it, Come in.
Mr. Baxter?
That's right.
Flowers for Mrs. Baxter.
Oh, thank you.
Hell, we really raved. The company?
Mr. Gifford, no less. Mr. Gifford hopes Mr. and Mrs. Baxter will have a very pleasant stay in New York as honored guests of the company. We will do everything possible to make this a memorable occasion.
Look at the schedule. It's like a timetable.
Mrs. Sidney Burns?
Yes.
Some flowers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is where I belong.
You say something, honey?
Yes. Come here a minute, Jerry. I said, this is where we belong.
Now, look, Carol, don't build yourself up for a letdown. We don't know for sure that this 3-card Monte game is for that Briggs job.
Well, I know. This is the first time the expense account has included the wives. They don't make a tycoon out of a man without being sure his wife will qualify as Mrs. Tycoon. You think I'm up to it, Jerry?
I'm never quite sure what you're up to.
Well, I'm up to here with ambition for my husband.
You'd like to have me get that job, wouldn't you?
Only if you want it. You've got to want things, Jerry. I've got to get dressed. Tonight may be a fashion show, and I don't want to finish last. Valet, please.
Bill,
Yeah?
I'm just beginning to realize that plane trip upset me.
Oh, no, you don't, Katie. You're not backing out of this party. And they want to meet you, Mr. Gifford and all of them. And besides, I didn't bring you to New York to show you off only to bellboys and chambermaids.
I like bellboys and chambermaids.
Katie, what are you worried about now?
Look, this dress.
Why, that's your favorite dress.
Yes, in Kansas City.
What's the matter with
Well,
it?
it doesn't go with orchids, and it certainly doesn't go with New York.
Well, what else have you got?
Well, I ought to wear something with a plunging neckline.
All right.
The only thing I have with a plunging neckline is my nightgown.
I used to work with Sid Burns years ago, and Miss
He's my best customer. I just sold him his 5th Gifford.
I can remember when station wagons were the cheapest model we carried.
Let's stay in town for dinner and see if you're good.
I wonder where the waiter is. You're the hardest thing to get at a party is a glass of water.
Mr. Gifford, that report I sent you Monday. Now, I realize that this isn't the time or the place.
You're correct. This isn't the time nor the place.
Could I get you a scotch and soda, Mr. Gifford?
No thanks, Grove. You're much too valuable a man for that. Oh, Tony.
Yes, sir?
I know this affair is a necessary evil, but must it go on indefinitely? Where are the guests of honor?
My schedule suggested they be here at 6:30. You said to have everyone here ahead of them.
Tony, when I say everyone, I never include me.
Sorry, Uncle Ernest.
Now, you'll remember everything, darling.
I'll try, Bill. I'll do my very best to impress Mr. Gifford and everybody.
That's my girl.
And when we get back tonight, and I'm apologizing, I want you to remember that.
Oh, everything will be fine. But just remember, 1 martini, no more.
Yes, Bill.
And don't say yes, sir, to Mr. Gifford. Just address him as Mr. Gifford.
Yes, Mr. Baxter.
And don't you worry.
Don't worry, he says. Pretend to listen. 1 martini, 3 sips. Be sure to mingle. Don't relax. Speak up. Be quiet. No, Mr. Gifford. Yes, Mr. Gifford. What do I do if somebody invites me to step out of my cage?
Oh, Jerry, I forgot something. I'll have to go back to the room.
Oh, well, I'll wait here for you.
No, you go ahead. I won't be a minute.
You'll need the key.
Hello, Burns. Good to see you again. I'm Baker, remember?
Oh, yes. This is my wife. Darling, this is Ed Baker.
Pleased to meet you.
Yes, I've heard to speak of you.
Drink?
Hey, Texas.
Well, Mac.
We've been waiting to
How are you?
congratulate you.
Hi, Jonesy.
Where's that good-looking wife
She'll
of
be
yours?
down in a minute.
How about a drink?
You talked me into it.
Come on. There's Joe Wilkinson. Joe, how are you?
Hi,
Nice
Bill.
to
How are
see
you?
I'd like you to meet Mrs. Baxter. This is Joe Wilkinson.
How do you do?
She's heard me talk about you so much, Joe, she practically knows you.
Oh, yes. Have you moved from St. Louis?
St. Louis.
No, darling, Mr. Wilkinson is general sales manager here in New York.
The only Wilkinsons you've ever mentioned to me live in St. Louis.
Oh, no, honey, those are the Wilkins.
Could you use a drink, Mrs. Baxter?
Oh, yes, I could.
Right over here.
How do you do? I'm Tony Andrews.
Oh, I'm Mrs. Talbot. I'm glad to see you.
You'll be seeing a lot of me. Wherever you go and whatever you do in New York, I'll be along to pick up the tab.
Well, I'll continue to be glad to see you.
Sir, this is Mrs. Talbot.
And I don't need to be told you're Mr. Gifford.
You flatter me.
I recognized you from your pictures.
I make sure they flatter me, too.
I'm sorry, honey. I didn't see you come in.
You're the only one who didn't. Welcome to New York, Talbot.
Hey, there's Mr. Gifford.
Who's that with him?
Oh, that must be Mrs. Talbot.
The little Texas darling.
How'd she get there?
She let us run interference for her. I should say at the moment she's making a forward pass.
I think I ought to say hello to Mr. Gifford.
Well, so should I suppose.
Go ahead, we'll be there in a minute. I've heard a lot about your husband. He's supposed to be one of the fastest men on the team.
Thank you very much. I've heard some wonderful things about your husband, too. This is my 3rd martini. Do you mind?
Oh, why should I mind?
Well, Bill does. He never likes me to have more than one, but I'm scared stiff.
So you're drinking yourself stiff.
Do I show it?
Well, far be it from me to help the competition, but I'll let you in on an old trade secret. The minute a company wife takes her 3rd jolt at one of these clam bakes, she's automatically classified as a dipsomaniac. Here, you better eat up.
Thank you.
I'm not going to try to match wits with you, Mr. Gifford. I'm just going to listen and relax.
I must say you relax very attractively. I'm a firm believer in relaxation. That's why I surround myself with hard workers, such as your husband and... Oh, hello, Burns. Hello, Baxter.
Hi, Mr. Gifford.
Mrs. Talbot, may I present Mr. Burns?
How do you do?
Mrs. Talbot?
And Mr. Baxter.
How do you do?
How do you do?
And will you gentlemen please identify Mrs. Burns and Mrs. Baxter for me?
This is Mrs. Burns.
How do you do?
How do you do, Mrs. Burns?
No, you're Mrs. Baxter.
Oh, yes, I'm Mrs. Baxter. How do you do?
Then, You must be Mrs. Burns.
Well, when I came in, I was Mrs. Burns.
Mrs. Talbot, one of these ladies is Mrs. Burns and the other is Mrs. Baxter. We'll straighten it out later. Tony, come here.
Yes, sir. Gentlemen. Gentlemen.
Gentlemen, I wish to present you Mr. Talbot, Mr. Baxter, and Mr. Burns, who, as a reward for their accomplishments on behalf of Gifford Motors, have been brought to New York tax deductible. And I wish to present their charming wives, who are also tax deductible and as pretty a set of tax deductions as will pass through the Treasury Department this year. Let me suggest that when we are together, we will have a much better time if you all forget that I am president of our company. I want particularly for you young ladies to enjoy this visit, and that can best be accomplished by your just being yourselves. Thank you. That's just what I mean.
Well, that was a very handsome compliment you paid our wives, Mr. Gifford.
Thank you.
I want to thank you on behalf of the 3rd District.
Yes, we enjoyed your speech very much, Mr. Gifford.
No one was listening to me, thanks to this uninhibited young beauty.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Oh, no, not sir. I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Gifford.
Please believe that I welcomed your, shall I say, comment on my speech. I was slightly bored myself. Tell me, is this your first visit to New York? Splendid. You'll have something to tell your children. You have 2, I believe. 3. And I suppose they're the most wonderful children in the world. I knew you were going to say that.
Here, darling, water.
Yes, pinch your nose. Drink from the opposite side of the glass, upside down. That's right.
Do you dance?
But if you don't mind, let's sit this one out.
You know, I'm beginning to understand why your husband has been so successful.
Some companies seem to regard the wives as liabilities.
Some wives are.
Only if they're married to the wrong man.
Any man would be the wrong man for some wives.
Then he would be the wrong man for that wife.
I know we're dancing, but isn't our conversation getting somewhat circular?
You think she's making a play for Gifford?
Oh, let's be charitable. Let's just say she's interested in that Briggs job for her husband.
Well, now that you're here, how do you like New York?
Oh, I think it's a wonderful place to visit.
Oh, now, don't say you wouldn't like to live here.
Oh, there's not much chance of that ever happening.
You seem to be discounting that clever husband of yours.
What do you mean?
Well, he has a rather impressive record, hasn't he? And if Mr. Gifford should decide to advance him...
Oh, you don't suppose the company is thinking of bringing him to New York someday?
It's not impossible.
You don't mean that, do you?
You just hold the right thought and keep your fingers crossed.
Keep my fingers crossed.
Well, that's the way to get your wish, isn't it?
Talbot, your wife dances beautifully.
Your wife dances beautifully.
Your wife dances beautifully.
Bill, to Kansas City. I'm sorry.
Oh, but go easy, darling.
No, I'm all right. I was just trying to drink with my fingers crossed.
Is that a local custom in Kansas City?
No, Mr. Gifford. I was just making a wish.
Let's hope it comes true.
Well, that sort of depends on you.
Anything in my power.
Well, I just wish you wouldn't give Bill a job in New York.
Katie.
Really? That's what you're wishing?
Well, you see, Mr. Gifford, Katie doesn't know. I didn't tell her.
Didn't tell her what, Baxter?
Well, I mean, I didn't...
What didn't you tell me, Bill?
Well, nothing, honey. Let's just skip the whole thing.
Did I say something
They say,
terrible?
Mrs. Baxter, that if you tell your wish, it doesn't come true. Of course, that's merely a superstition, but I guess we better let the future take care of
Please,
it.
let's change the subject. My name is Katie Baxter, and I have 3 children, all of whom are much smarter than I am. Excuse me.
Katie,
No,
darling.
you stay here, please.
Just a minute, Baxter. May I say something?
I'm sorry, Mr. Gifford. I think my wife needs me now.
Oh, honey, you just can't depend on me.
Oh, that's just it. That's why you're so wonderful. That's one of the reasons I love you. You're completely unpredictable.
You can't predict what I'll do, but you sure can predict I'll do it.
Well, in my opinion, Mrs. Baxter certainly knocked her husband out of the running.
I wasn't referring to Mrs. Baxter.
Just what does that mean?
I saw you working on Gifford tonight.
Well, you won't go after the job. You even act as if you didn't want it.
Sure I want it. So does Burns, so does Baxter. That's just it. Probably 3 fairly nice guys. Under normal conditions, I'm sure we'd like each other very much. Now we've got to perform for the master. Got to try to catch each other off balance with one smug little show of superiority that'll knock out the other 2. Why, this 3-ring circus?
I don't care about the others. I was just trying to prove to Gifford that he wouldn't be making a mistake if he chose you.
Carol, you let me prove that.
But, darling, don't you see? If I did show him a little attention, it was only to encourage his interest in you for the job.
Now listen, I'll get to the top. But I'll get there on what I've got, not what you've got.
Liz, I want to thank you. You had me worried a couple of times, but all in all, you were a pretty swell wife tonight.
Thanks.
I'm sure you made Gifford believe it.
Oh.
You really did a solid job.
Do you mind if I comment on your job? That Gifford seems to be a very sharp cookie, and he might notice that you're trying too hard. Just a little too hard.
I'm trying too hard. What about the Talbot woman?
You answered your own question. She's a woman. Prime Texas beef, with New York steaks in exactly the right places.
What's that got to do with it?
You'll find out. Poor Katie Baxter. She just couldn't do anything right. Her husband is probably the best man for the job, too.
Well, what about me?
You do just as well for a while, till the job killed you. I like that, Bill Baxter. I like the way he left Gifford flat because his wife needed him. I bet they've worked it out so they're pretty happy. With him, it doesn't have to be all job and no family.
All right. So by your standards, I'm a failure as a husband. Is this what you want?
Get away from me.
I'm sorry, Liz.
So am I.
Bill. Bill.
Hmm?
Why was what I said so terrible?
Which one?
Well, you know, when I said, Mr. Gifford, my wish was that you wouldn't give Bill a job in New York.
Well, you know, Katie, it may seem strange to you, but New Yorkers like New York.
Yeah. No, it was more than that. You know, even those people from Texas and Philadelphia looked as though I'd dropped a bomb. And the look on your face.
Katie, you remember Phil Briggs, the general manager?
The man who died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, his job is still open.
You mean they may offer that job to you? Well, why didn't you tell me that in Kansas City before we came here?
You know why.
Yeah, I'd have been scared to death. And I wouldn't have come.
That's just it. Hey, wouldn't this look nice on you?
You mean in public?
Sure.
Bill, you would want the children to see me in that.
It would show you off beautifully.
Good night. That's the kind of dress Mrs. Talbot wears. Tell me, did her neckline plunge enough to suit you?
Better ask Gifford. He had the view. I'm going to give you some more money in the morning.
Good.
And you get yourself something that'll make Gifford look at you for a change.
Bill, You don't want that job, do you?
Well, it's just, I'd like him to think I'm the best man for it. And you're the best wife for it.
Well, had me scared for a minute.
Katie?
Yeah.
Come here. Now, let's get this straight here and now. I don't need the Briggs job to make me happy. But I do need you.
Oh, Bill, do you know that's the first time in our lives you've ever said you need me? Just like a play I saw on television. No, 2 plays, the same night. I love you.
And I love you. But I'm going to sleep. It's after midnight. Good night, sweetie.
All right. Of course, you're the best man for the job. And I'd like to see Mr. Gifford offer it to you.
Oh?
But I'm glad you want to stay in Kansas City.
Oh.
That's the public library.
Those lions look superior, don't they?
They remind me of somebody. Oh, I know. They look like Mr. Gifford.
Very discerning of you, Mrs. Baxter. Mr. Gifford has been accused of posing for them.
Wasn't it considerate of Mr. Gifford to furnish us with such a tactful and entertaining escort?
We wouldn't know about that.
Oh, now, please, ladies, I am not worth it.
Well, Mrs. Talbot can use you for practice until she gets a chance at that old string bean Gifford again.
Don't repeat that to your uncle.
Oh, he can tell his uncle as far as I'm concerned. Tell his aunt, too.
His uncle happens to be Mr. Gifford.
Mr. Andrews, if you get near a river, would you please stop? I'd like to jump in.
Katie, you're getting the roof of your mouth sunburned.
This is the United Nations. Those are the flags of all the countries that belong to it.
Some of the men have been here ever since the plant opened. My father knew every one of his workers by name.
Yes, he used to call me Sid.
What's that?
I said your father used to call me Sid.
Really, Mr. Bird? You should be proud you worked your way up through the plant.
Yes, sir, I am.
How on earth did you ever stand the noise? No matter how good the plans of the engineers look in blueprints, this is the final test. Whenever we brought out a new model, I couldn't get Briggs to listen to what I had to say about it. The only man he wanted to talk to was that test driver.
He was a great general manager.
I think he was the best informed man I ever met, especially about people. I remember when he came down to Texas, he knew everything about everybody. He even knew that I had a collection of early Colt revolvers.
That was his special trick, and he made it pay off handsomely. He called it his particular brand of enterprise.
How did it work?
Well, he had a huge file pertaining to the various sports and hobbies of men. When he met you, he'd bring up your hobby as though it were his own. His best deal was made with an amateur mountain climber who never knew the Briggs got busy if he stood on a thick carpet. You don't approve of the Briggs technique, Baxter?
No. In the first place, it's based on deceit. And I don't think that big business is built on personal relationships anymore.
This is where they dream up ideas for the car of the future. There's nothing about an automobile that we're not working on. Have any of you gentlemen ever thought of an improvement that would sell more Giffords than we're selling now?
Well, if we could cross a Gifford with a helicopter, it might help solve the parking problem.
We tried that once, but gave it up. But step over here, gentlemen. Oh, Jones. Johnson. Or is it Robinson?
My name is Jablonowski, Mr. Gifford.
Oh, of course, yes, Jablonowski. Show us what you're planning for us.
How soon are we going to get that, Mr. Gifford?
As soon as we can get the cost down to where it's practical.
I could sell 1,000 of those cars a week.
Yeah, so could I. That's what I mean, Mr. Gifford. If you have a quality product, you don't have to pretend to be a mountain climber to make a sale.
You seem bent on criticizing a man who can defend himself only at a seance.
Well, I wasn't criticizing a man. I was criticizing a philosophy.
Baxter, just what do you think are the qualifications of an executive?
Well, I think the first responsibility of an executive is to operate his company for the benefit of the public.
We're talking about a private enterprise. You sound like a public utility. This is the room I've been looking for.
Beautiful color combinations. I can understand why you brought us in here.
Not at all. I've been looking for a place to sit down. You haven't had much to say, Talbot.
You learn more listening. No, I've heard what Baxter said, what Burns said. Both made a lot of sense to me. I'd go along with both of them.
Well, haven't you anything to contribute?
Nothing I can be sure would be useful.
Suppose you let me be the judge of that. Sit down, gentlemen.
Well, I think any man in a top job has to have everything that Baxter and Burns mentioned, and a little extra.
What extra?
I wish I knew.
Aren't you being somewhat cryptic?
No, because I honestly don't know what it is. Except that a big man who functions in a big job has to have it. Personally, I call it X plus.
X plus?
Yes, X because no one knows just what it is, and plus because it's a little more than the ordinary person has.
And you can't define it?
Well, it's that quality that makes a champion, a star, a leader, a great man. I think we all recognize it when we meet someone who has it.
For example?
Eisenhower has it. Churchill has it. All of the greats. Edison, Ford, Babe Ruth. Anyone who belongs at the top has some of it.
How about yourself? Do you think you have it?
Well, there are a lot of days when I'm sure I haven't. And then there are days when I'm positive I have.
How can I be sure whether or not you have this X plus, Talbot? Or Baxter, or Burns?
Mr. Gifford, if you have it, I think you'll know whether any of us have it or not.
Possibly. Well, I feel I know all of you a little better now. Which leaves me even more confused. Shall we go to lunch?
Hi.
Hi.
How'd you get along with Mr. Gifford?
I haven't the slightest idea.
You didn't say or do anything to offend him.
I wouldn't know.
What about the other?
Oh, Burns delivered his pat little speech. But Baxter wouldn't guess him. He gave him an argument.
I'll bet you made a wonderful impression.
You know, I like that Baxter. I like the way he spoke up. Sure would be great to have an honest general manager with guts.
That's why you should be general manager. Jerry, I have a confession to make. I fell in love today.
How's that?
I fell in love today. Desperately.
Oh, with that young Mr. Andrews?
No. With New York. Oh, Jerry, this is the most fabulous, exciting, thrilling city. Oh, we just have to be here. Oh, this is where all the most important people in the world are.
Carol, could it be that you're just a bit of a social climber?
Well, if I am, then New York is Mount Everest.
Suppose it doesn't work out.
Or just has to.
I wonder what would happen if you had to make a choice between New York and me.
Oh, darling, as if there could be any choice. Why can't I have you both? We're on our own for dinner tonight. Tony suggested the Pavilion. You better shave.
Pavilion? I never heard of it.
You will.
You know, Liz, I'd say I came out on top.
What brings you to this modest conclusion?
Well, Baxter reeled off a lot of high-sounding stuff, and all Talbot said was that a general manager ought to be a little better than the next fellow. Made it a perfect setup for anybody that could make sense, and
Aren't you forgetting about your ulcer?
Well, you asked me a question, I was just trying to answer it for you. If you're not interested.
Forgive me. For the moment, I forgot about the job and was interested in you.
You think I'm a conceited heel, don't you?
No.
Well, I do. Now that I've thought about what I've been saying.
How is your ulcer?
Terrible. The food at the plant is cooked in steel pots for iron stomachs.
But if you accomplish something for yourself, I guess the suffering is worth it.
Sure. You're right, Liz. All in all, I'd say I had a very good day. I don't claim to be dazzling Mr. Gifford with my personality, but I'm getting someplace. Don't you think so? Oh, now, please, Liz, I'm not being conceited now. I'd like your honest opinion as an outsider.
Sure. As an outsider, I can see you're getting someplace. Every minute you're getting closer to the job that's going to kill you. And every minute you're getting closer to the end of our marriage. You're asking for compliments from me. All in all, I'd say you had a wonderful day. Congratulations.
Well, Liz, wait, aren't we having dinner together?
How would I know your plans?
Well, where are you going?
Where do you think I'm going? As an outsider, I'm going outside.
Where did I put the phone?
Bill, when are you going to ask me?
What about, honey?
About this afternoon. I did it again. I made cracks about Mrs. Talbot and Mr. Gifford that weren't very nice. In fact, if anyone made them about me, I'd start swinging. And then I found out that Tony, sitting right there as big as life, is Mr. Gifford's nephew.
I didn't know that either.
Well, if you wanted Mr. Gifford to think that we're the best couple for the job, I proved to anyone who might have had the slightest doubt that as a candidate for Mrs. General Manager, I am positively not it.
Well, darling, compared to me, you're a career diplomat.
What'd you do?
I spoke my mind.
Good.
I don't think Mr. Gifford liked what I said.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
At least he knows I'm no yes man.
See? Not wanting the job, you could speak your mind. You could be perfectly honest. And I will bet you that he has more respect for you than he has for any of those other fellows.
Yes, dear.
And I will bet you... Oh, dear.
What?
You don't suppose he has so much respect for you, he'd make you take the job?
Darling, between the two of us, I think we can succeed in failing.
Yeah, I think so. What's on the schedule for tonight?
Hey, we're on our own.
Oh, that is wonderful. I have a suggestion. Why don't we have dinner right here in the suite and call up Kansas City and talk to the children?
Oh, great. Now, while I order dinner, You put on one of those New York gowns you bought today.
Oh, I didn't buy one. But I promise you I will go out tomorrow and really shop for something.
Well, you be sure you do.
I will.
Hey, listen. Why don't you go shopping with that Mrs. Burns? She seems to have a pretty sharp eye for clothes.
Well, thank you for the suggestion.
Oh, that's okay. Now for our big evening. While I order cocktails and a menu sent up, you put on a slinky negligee.
I didn't bring a slinky negligee with me. If you want me to slink, you'll have to enjoy it in this bathrobe.
Well, we'll put the lights out. I'll use my imagination. Hello? Room service. Room service, please.
Will you join me, Mother?
I have a guest coming. I'm going to wait for him.
Oh? And who might that be?
Someone I'm very fond of. I haven't seen him for a long time.
Mother, that sounds very romantic.
No, I'm related to him by marriage. My mother and father's marriage. It's your uncle.
He must be coming to see me. He wants to know what I think of the three wives.
Well, what did you think of them?
Oh, strictly no contest. For a general manager's wife, one of them is so eminently suitable that...
Don't mention the name of your choice, Tony.
Oh.
I don't wish to be prejudiced against her.
Ernest, you look just as I remembered you.
I hope it's no trouble my dropping in for a cocktail. And I will have a cocktail, Tony.
It's no trouble. It's just a bit of a shock.
Well, I was coming back from Long Island. While crossing the bridge, I happened to look down and see your house. Thought of you.
Wait a minute, Ernest. That look you have. It isn't they came here for cocktails look.
A very discerning woman, even in your riper years.
Should I resent that for you, Mother?
Down, boy. You know about the company's guests of honor?
The Briggs job caper.
Mother, you've been watching television again.
I get around. Have you picked your man for the job yet?
No such luck. Right man, wrong wife. Right wife, wrong man. The wife will represent the company at certain times almost as much as her husband. And I know I shall never get complete efficiency from a man who spends his nights dreaming about his wife falling down 3 flights of stairs.
Oh, I should think it might keep him on his toes.
According to your own statement, none of these couples seems to fit your standards. Why not look for someone else?
Well, these are the best men available. And you know, my dear...
Ernest, just what is it you want me to do?
I was planning a little dinner Thursday night and was hoping you'd be my hostess. And keep your eyes open.
Ernest, it's very difficult to judge a woman on the basis of one dinner and one dress. Find out if she's really housebroken takes a weekend. Is Castle Hill open?
Yes, a skeleton staff, only 5 people, but I can send down the servants from New York. Evelyn, it's very nice of you to do this for me.
Why, not at all. It just means I have to cancel appointments with my dentist, my doctor, my dressmaker, my masseur, 1 lunch and 3 cocktail
Evelyn, you
parties.
shouldn't let your life get into such confusion. A weekend in the country will do you good. It's very fortunate that I dropped in. It'll be interesting to see which wife you nominate. I hope our minds meet. Oh, au revoir, dear. Tony?
When it comes to women, I'm not sure Ernest thinks with his mind.
There's one wife in particular. He seems very much attracted to her. I hope he hasn't reached that age.
All men reach that age.
Well, I guess we got the same idea.
If you're referring to good food, yes.
Mind if I sit down?
You're still my husband. You have certain rights.
The place hasn't changed much, has it?
You haven't seen the menu. On your salary of 12 years ago, we'd be outside with our noses pressed against the window.
Everything's gone up since then. Liz, when you left the hotel,
You gonna sit here?
Yes, if you don't mind.
It's all right. He's my husband.
You know, my wife and I used to eat dinner here almost every night years ago.
You want a cocktail?
No, thanks. We sat right at that table over there.
No cocktail, huh?
No. Well, say, there was a waiter here by the name of Tommaso. Is he still around?
Yeah, he's the boss now.
Is that right? I'd like to talk to him.
I'll tell him.
Thanks.
No cocktail, huh?
No. Well, Liz, we had some wonderful times here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Great times. What happened to us?
We got married.
No, I don't mean that.
Did you wish to see me?
Hello. They recognized you.
Food's too good. How are you? You haven't been in lately.
Well, it's been about 12 years.
Why not?
We're living in Philadelphia now.
We're married.
To each other.
Well, I remember you was married here, right at that table.
We had our wedding dinner there.
Liz, have you ordered yet?
No.
Why don't we have that same dinner tonight? You remember, Tommaso, was $1.25 dinner. Red ink included.
Sure, same dinner exact. Right here. $4.50, so wine extra. Giovanni, 2 pranzi, un spaghetti, un ravioli, 2 antipasti. Uno con doppio di pepperoncini.
Okay.
Hey, how many kids you got?
2.
What's the matter?
Yeah, we're not complaining.
Maybe this is going to give you ideas. A toast. To love.
To love.
Ah, here we are. Just like our wedding night. You see? I remember. Double order of peppers for you.
Thanks, Tommaso.
I'm going to serve you myself now. You take the spaghetti and you take the ravioli.
No, Tommaso, it's just the other way around.
Of course. What's the matter with me? Coming right up.
Sid, you can't eat that.
Oh, I guess you're right. 12 years ago, I could eat it. 12 years ago, I was at the bottom of the ladder and on top of the world. I didn't know when I was well off.
You still don't.
Liz, I was so miserable and lonely after you left the hotel. Then I thought about Tony's, and I guess I came here to feel sorry for myself. What brought you here?
It brings people back to the place where they were happy, or murderers back to the scene of their crime. You explain it.
I don't expect you to believe this, but I love you very much.
There's something else you love more.
Look, if I'd forget all about the bridge job, if I'd really settle down for some home life, would you give me another chance as a husband?
No.
Why not?
Well, in the first place, that wasn't an offer. It was a question. And in the second place, the two of us being back here together tonight makes one of your loves seem to outweigh the other at the moment.
No. No, I'm serious. I'll prove it to you.
You said that before.
Well, doggone it, this is our wedding dinner anniversary, and I'm going to celebrate it.
Sid, sit up.
Murder. Just murder.
You knew this was going to happen. Why did you have to eat that Italian dynamite?
I'm not complaining. By the way, did I thank you for a wonderful evening?
Thank you, too. Pardon me. Mistake.
No, I don't know. This is William Baxter of the Gifford Motor Car Company. And I had a message to call a Mr. Kleinert. Yeah, I'll hold on.
Hi, darling.
Hello, sweetie. Where have you been?
Shopping. Bill, I found the most wonderful thing that you're just going to be crazy about.
Oh, that's great, because take a look at that.
What is it?
Invited to Mr. Gifford's place on Long Island for the weekend, and we're leaving tomorrow afternoon on his yacht.
For the weekend?
Yeah, isn't it? Oh, hello? Yes, Mr. Kleinert. Oh, I see. No, I can come over right away if you like. Will Talbot and Burns be there? I see. No. I'll come right over. Thank you, Mr. Kleinert. Well, what do you know? I have to go over to the advertising agency right away.
Is anything wrong?
Anything wrong? Honey, this is wonderful. I just tossed out a few suggestions this morning, and now Gifford wants them to go over all the advertising layouts with me. With me, honey. Not Talbot, not Burns, just me.
What do you suppose it means?
It means that I'm way out in front. It means that I may be the new general manager. Honey, this may be the big break that...
Bill,
Yes, Katie.
you do want the Briggs job, don't you?
I wouldn't be human if I didn't, honey. It's the top job in the whole organization. Of course I want it.
Okay, Bill, then I want you to have it. If you want it, then I want it too.
Gee, and if my ideas for that campaign are really good, and if you knock them for a loop this weekend, you got that dress, huh?
No, not that one.
Well, tell me about it later, honey. I'll see you in about an hour.
Bill! Hey, Bill! You forgot something.
What?
Good luck.
Hi.
Whatever it is, good luck from me, too.
Liz, have you heard about the weekend?
Yeah, I didn't expect to have that thrown at me. I had to go out and buy some clothes.
What'd you get?
An evening gown, a little cocktail outfit.
Oh, I did something terrible.
Like what?
Well, Bill gave me money to buy some clothes, and I practically spent it all.
What did you get?
A very expensive barbecue.
Katie, they're not wearing barbecues this season.
Well, it's something he's always wanted and said he couldn't afford.
What an idiotic, wonderful thing to do.
Bill thinks I bought something sensational for the trip, you know, with Mr. Gifford. And what I want to talk to you about is, you see, Bill suggested that I ask you to help me to shop.
Why me?
Well, he said you have a very sharp eye for clothes.
That's a compliment that husbands seem to pay all wives but their own.
Yeah. Well, it's important to Bill how I look on this trip. And what's important to him is important to me.
Well, let's see what we can do about it. Tell me, how much do you have left of Bill's money?
$73.
$73?
Uh-huh.
Well, what do you actually need?
Well, I need an evening gown for sure, and then I need something not quite so formal.
And a fairy godmother. All right, I accept the nomination. First, let's consider your assets. $73 and a good figure. I've got it. There's only one answer to that, I hope. Come on.
Where are we going?
Well, it's a joint where they sell odd lot leftovers. And if you're lucky, sometimes you can pick up an exclusive that's been worn by a model.
I never heard of a store like that.
Well, it's not a store, it's a battlefield.
I just took this off the rack. You did, hey? Well, I have my hands on this first. I don't wish to argue with you know this. I warn you, keep your hands off of this dress.
Oh, shut your mouth.
Mother, this is just what we're looking for.
Oh, good. What size is it?
It's an 8, just right.
You see the new rack they just brought in?
Oh!
Hey, Liz, come here and look at this.
No more. I quit.
Please, Liz.
Look, Katie, we found a cocktail dress. Let's not press our luck.
I know, but this one looks unusual.
It just looks familiar. We've been over that rack 3 times.
Well, we may be reaching for the moon, but I know I saw this in Harper's or Gold. Probably saw it in the comic books.
Hey, where'd you get that?
On this rack. It's only $59.95.
That's a Maurice original.
Maurice who?
Katie, when the cheapest dress you make is $500, you only need one name.
Well, I knew there was something about it. Oh, yes, I remember now. It's something terrible. It's a size 16.
Well, buy it and let's get out of here.
Well, I'm an 8.
Doesn't matter, Katie. Maybe it's a small 16. Go try it on.
Oh, okay.
Sadie, where's that pink coat? I went out and bought a pink dress to match it. Now I can't find it anywhere.
But you can't buy that. That's the dress I wore in here.
Oh!
Look, oh, sorry. Look, I can walk around in this without moving it. It's no use, Liz. They don't make alterations.
All right, I'll confess. In my glamorous past, I was a fitter at Macy's. I make alterations.
You know, I think you're the most wonderful person I've ever known. Is this where you got your dresses for the weekend party?
No.
Why not?
I haven't got the brains to do this for myself. Come on, let's give him the money and get out of here.
Okay. I'm feeling a little woozy.
But we just left the dock.
I think I'll go and lie down in that little room downstairs.
Katie, sailors don't say downstairs, they say below.
I am not what you call a good sailor, so I'm going downstairs.
You know something, Liz? No pain.
Good. You had enough the other night to last a month.
Yeah. I think the main reason is that I've quit worrying. As far as I'm concerned, that Briggs job can go jump. You still don't believe me, do you?
Well, you haven't said anything to Mr. Gifford yet.
Well, I don't have to. Just by not trying, I can eliminate myself. That way I won't offend him.
You mean it would offend him if you told him your health wouldn't permit you to take the job?
Well, he might not believe it. Think I was a quitter. I don't want to lose what I've got.
Why, this is as easy as driving a car. I could sail this boat all the way to England.
We won't try for England this afternoon.
That sounded like Katie.
Yeah.
That is Katie. I better go look for her.
Mr. Gifford, we're getting off course.
Oh, then you better take over, Captain.
I'm sorry. Oh, that was fun. Even getting off course can be fun.
Well, glad you got here before I drowned.
You managed to get into more trouble. Must be a very interesting life.
Oh, there you are, Evelyn.
I heard you drive up. I'm glad you're here.
This is your hostess, Mrs. Andrews. My sister, Tony's mother.
Dennis, don't explain me. Just introduce me.
Mr. and Mrs. Baxter from Kansas City.
How do you do?
Kansas City. How nice.
Mrs. Burns from Philadelphia.
I love Philadelphia.
How do you do? And Mr. and Mrs. Talbot.
How do you do?
From Texas, ma'am. Dallas. I knew Texas would speak for itself.
I believe we've met.
You ladies are not what I expected. I thought you'd be like some Helen Hokinson characters, all girdled and bosomy.
You're right about the girdle.
I planned some tea for us girls. We dine rather late here. But first, let me show you to your rooms. You must want to freshen up.
You gentlemen must want to freshen up, too. I'll show you to the bar.
It's too bad you had to see the place at this time of the year. In the spring, the gardens are all pink and white and frivolous.
Oh, I think it's just beautiful now.
Trip down was perfect. A little perilous for Katie.
Mrs. Baxter, I can't keep my eyes off that dress. Did you bring that from Kansas City?
Oh, no, I bought this in New York.
Really? Where?
You wouldn't believe
It's a
this.
Bonwitello exclusive.
Oh, Bonwitz.
Well, I didn't get it at Bonwitz. Mrs. Burns knew that.
I've been admiring your dress, Mrs. Andrews. Italian, isn't it?
Yes. You were just going to tell me.
Oh, well, this is a place where they sell dresses that models have worn. You'd be surprised at the
What
prices.
surprises me is you having the courage to do a thing like that. We're all so snobbish about clothes. Mrs. Burns, would you take me there sometime?
Mrs. Andrews, you're the most.
Oh, what does that mean?
Oh, that means you're not a bit like Mr. Gifford.
I wonder what's keeping Mrs. Talbot.
Oh, thank you.
These are marvelous. Are they hard to make?
No. You take one good cook and put her in the kitchen.
Oh, I'm sorry I'm late, Mrs. Andrews. Actually, I came down early, and Mr. Gifford was kind enough to show me the grounds.
I don't blame him. You're a very pretty young lady. In fact, you're all so young, you make my bones ache.
Oh, I just hope I look as good as you do when I'm your...
Please go on. I don't resent that kind of a compliment. Cream?
No, thank you.
Well, what I meant to say was, I think you're so wonderfully preserved.
Thank you. Oh, my dear. Did you burn yourself in that beautiful dress? Well, we'll take care of this right away. Mrs. Burns, will you play hostess for a few minutes?
With pleasure.
I get clumsier every year. It's a good thing I'm out here where I can't get at your best furniture.
Come this way.
Isn't it a shame that Katie spilled tea on her dress?
A shame, but not a surprise.
What I meant was, she's upstairs getting chummy with Mr. Gifford's sister.
Should that concern us?
Well, Mrs. Andrews is an important stockholder. She could have a hand in picking the new general manager.
Oh, Mr. Gifford makes his own decisions. Besides, I'm sure we both are aware that we happen to be living in a man's world.
You haven't any children, have you, Mrs. Talbot?
No.
You know, I think if you and Mr. Talbot had children, you might realize that a man like your husband would be working more for his children than for you. You wouldn't mind that because they'd be your children, too, and you'd know you gave them to him. That's why, Mrs. Talbot, it isn't a man's world. It's a woman's world. Have a cookie, Cookie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Do you know something? That robe's never going to be happy on me again. It won't take Mary long to iron out your dress.
Gosh, all this trouble and then having to leave your guests.
Trouble, it's a relief. I'm always nervous at first with strange people.
You're just saying that to make me feel good, because that's the way I am. Oh, I was so nervous that I was going to say or do something wrong.
Yes, I sensed that the moment I met you. Not that you were going to do something wrong, but that you were all keyed up trying not to.
Nobody would ever believe that you were nervous.
I've learned not to show it. You're going to have to learn that. As your husband grows more and more successful, you're going to have to learn a great many things.
What kind of things? I mean, besides being a charming hostess to strange people, the way you're doing now.
Aren't you actually trying to ask what it would be like for you if you were the wife of Gifford Motors' general manager?
Yes.
Well, in the first place, as your husband becomes more important to his company, he'll have to give it more of his time and attention. That's at your expense, of course. And you must convince him you're perfectly content.
Oh, but I'm used to being alone. You know, Bill travels a lot as the district manager. Then, of course, I have the children. They're growing up.
You wouldn't have so much time for the children. You'd have social obligations. You'd have to be saying nice things you didn't mean to people who didn't believe you. And at all times conduct yourself with the poise and dignity expected from the wife of so important a man, even if you felt like kicking up your heels and screaming. I know. Years ago, I served my time as the wife of the general manager of Gifford Motors. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to prepare you to face the future with some idea of what it's all about. Well, I'd better get back to the other guests. You won't have to wait long for your dress.
Well, thank you for everything, and especially for telling me what the general manager's wife has to do. Now that I know what to expect, I'll do it.
You're quite a girl.
See, Bill, that's my husband. He's the best man for the job. And Mr. Gifford is bound to recognize that.
You do love your husband, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do.
That's good. Because the man who gets the job must have a wife who loves him very much.
Everything on this wall was shot by my grandfather. He hunted in the West when the West was still wild. These are things shot by my father. He went to Africa with Roosevelt. That would be Roosevelt the first, in 1909. I think you gentlemen will find this a very interesting collection. These are specimens from all over the world. India, Africa, South America, Australia.
Is this your wall, Mr. Gifford?
No, it's my mother's. Mama had a deadly aim. This is my wall. I've learned to let other people have the thrill of adventure and hardship and hard work. Which brings me gracefully to my subject. All of you are bright enough to know that I am now on a hunting trip. And one of you gentlemen will be my victim. Each of you must also be bright enough to know that your wife has been under observation. Whether she can properly represent the Gifford Motor Company is part of my decision, but she must also have one other important qualification, which will have to be your decision. Your wife must never compete with the company. If there's a choice between your work and your wife, your work must come first. Do you agree, all of you?
Well, I don't, Mr. Gifford. If a man's job and his home life interfere with each other, there's something wrong with the man.
Or the wife?
Oh, possibly, but if you'd expect me to marry my job at the expense of my legal wife, I'm not your man.
Well, I appreciate your frankness, Baxter. How about you, Talbot?
Mr. Gifford, I didn't come here to ask for this job. I'm not asking for it now. Mrs. Talbot and I were invited to New York so you could look us over. You've been looking us over. You mentioned a certain condition for this job. I have one too. Regardless of Mrs. Talbot, if I don't qualify for this job personally, then I don't want it.
Burns, under the conditions I've outlined, do you think you could handle this job?
Handle it? Mr. Gifford, I'd give my eye teeth for the chance.
Ernest, aren't you men dressing for dinner?
Of course. We dine at 8. You'll have my decision after dinner. Gentlemen?
We're going to serve cocktails, and I hope we'll be down in about half an hour.
We have an excellent cook.
I thought maybe you could use this before you go downstairs.
Thanks.
You've got plenty of time. That's new, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That looks great. You too, of course.
Sid, have you been drinking?
You know better than that. My ulcer's been having a field day again.
Why?
Why what?
Is it because you said you'd turn down the Briggs job if it's offered?
Liz, I can't turn it down. I had the chance this afternoon to tell Gifford I didn't want it. I couldn't.
Why not?
Liz, when they took me off the line and made me a foreman, I knew I was going to get someplace. When they took me out of the factory and started me selling cars, I knew I couldn't stop trying till I got to the top. And there was Gifford this afternoon laying it right in my lap, asking me if I could handle it. The top job in the company. I couldn't say no. I just couldn't. Liz, I honestly think Gifford has picked me.
Well, congratulations. You're getting the one and only thing you want.
No. No, Liz, that's not true. If I lose you and the kids, I lose everything that really matters to me. I know that. I try to do something about it, but something just keeps pushing me on. Can't you see, Liz?
Yes, I see.
Baxter said one thing today that makes sense. He said that a man's job and his home life ought to be separate. One shouldn't interfere with the other. I could make it like that with us, Liz.
Baxter could make it that way. Not you.
No, I guess not. All right, I'll go see Gifford right now and tell him I don't want it.
No. I understand you better now than I ever did before. If I made you give up this job, you'd always resent me. That's something I wouldn't want. So if Gifford gives you the job, take it, Sid. I'll stick.
Do you mean that, Liz?
I mean it. I don't look so bad in black. I'll be there to bury you. Because that's what it means. And it must mean, too, that I love you. I don't know why else I'd do it.
Liz.
Please, get out of the room, will you, Sid? Wait for me downstairs.
Okay.
Hey, Katie, darling, I've got to shave. Come on, aren't you ready yet?
Just about. Close your eyes.
Okay, come out, wherever you are.
Now.
Katie, you're beautiful. Honey, you're absolutely beautiful. What a gown.
But do you suppose I can get Mr. Gifford to unglue his eyes from Mrs. Talbot?
If you do, I'll break his jaw.
Bill, would it come as a terrible shock to you if I turned out to be smart?
Katie, what have you done now?
Well, this afternoon I spilled a whole cup of tea all over myself.
Oh, that's all.
This time I did it on purpose.
Why did you do that?
Well, I wanted a chance to talk to Mr. Gifford's sister, and it worked.
But why?
Well, they say she has a lot of influence with Mr. Gifford. And she told me things she said the general manager's wife had to do. And she said she was doing it to prepare me to face the future. So, looks like you've been elected.
What kind of things, honey?
Oh, things like how to be one of the social circle and how to get used to not seeing so much of my husband.
Well, how would you feel about that?
Oh, I'd feel fine. I think it would be just wonderful if you were the general manager.
Honey, you said that a bit too loud.
Too loud?
Yeah. What if I said I don't want the job?
You don't... Well, oh, Bill, anything you want. I mean, anything you don't want if you really don't want it.
Katie, darling, listen. For 2 hours, we've been finding out the lowdown on what this job really means. And right now, boy, Kansas City looks good to me.
Oh, I've never been so homesick for any place in my whole life.
Well, I've got to get ready.
Oh, Bill, if Mr. Gifford did give you the job, could you turn it down?
Well, I don't know. I'd feel pretty silly after all I said about how I run things, but I haven't got it yet, and I believe in his good judgment.
Oh, please don't say that. Now, I know you'll get the job.
I know. Put on that dress we brought from Kansas City.
Oh. Not.
He must have said something.
What?
I said he must have said something.
Oh, same thing he's been saying ever since we got to New York. He likes to watch people squirm. He'd also like to see us all sit up on our hind legs and beg.
Well, he's got to make up his mind soon.
Yeah, well, he's going to spring the big news tonight, right after dinner.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be you, Jerry.
I don't know. But I can promise you one thing.
Yes?
I won't finish worse than third.
Jerry. Jerry, do you mind if I go down ahead of you? I need a cocktail.
No, go right ahead.
Well, that's the picture, as I see it.
As usual, my dear, you see things very clearly. I must do something if I can. Come in. I can.
I'm sorry. I was told you'd be alone, Mr. Gifford.
He's going to be. Please come in. Shall I send in cocktails?
Never mind, Evelyn. We'll join you presently.
I wanted to speak to you.
You're looking lovely, as usual.
Thank you. Jerry tells me you're announcing your choice tonight.
Yes, that is my unpleasant duty.
Unpleasant.
I have to disappoint two excellent men.
I came here to talk to you about Jerry. As you may have noticed, he's an extremely modest man.
I don't consider that a weakness.
I do wish he'd try to sell himself more. Sometimes I have to do it for him. He has so many fine qualities that perhaps you've overlooked.
I assure you I haven't overlooked a thing.
Then you like him.
Very much. He's my favorite.
So you've already made your choice.
I have.
Will you be perfectly honest with me? Have I influenced you in any way in your decision?
Most definitely.
May I kiss you for that?
Certainly may.
I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Gifford. And I'm sure there'll be many opportunities for me to prove that to you.
But why should you be grateful to me?
Because you told me you'd selected Jerry.
I said no such thing.
But you led me to believe
I'm
that-
sorry, Mrs. Talbot. You led yourself to believe.
You said Jerry was your favorite.
He is.
Then why aren't you giving him the job?
Mrs. Talbot, I've studied your husband much more carefully than I have either of the others. In spite of his great talent, he has a certain handicap, and this handicap will not permit him to give his best to his work.
What handicap? The fact that he won't try to sell himself, that he isn't aggressive enough?
I don't wish to be too specific.
Except to say definitely that Jerry is out.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for telling me, Mr. Gifford.
Hi, I was just fixing to come downstairs.
Don't hurry.
What's the matter? You look like you just got hit by something.
Something just hit you.
Me?
You're not going to get the Briggs job.
How do you know that?
Gifford just told me.
Why did he tell you?
Because I was trying to get the job for you.
Carol, I told you before that wasn't your business.
I'd like to know why not. I've helped you get everything else you've ever gotten. Now you've lost the biggest chance you've ever had.
I thought I'd been doing pretty well on my own.
Well, it's about time you knew just how much I've done for you. I've been behind every big deal you've ever made.
Now, what's that supposed to mean?
Do you suppose that Latham gave you the Dallas agency just because you sold a few second-hand cars? And when Phil Briggs came to Dallas to look you over, well, he looked me over, too. And before he left town, he gave you the whole Southwest District.
My contract for the Southwest District was signed 2 weeks before Briggs ever left New York. So your hospitality to Mr. Briggs was just a little wasted.
I don't believe you.
Briggs must have had quite a laugh at you. And at me. Well, thank God Gifford is too big a man to make that kind of a deal.
Oh, look, Jerry, we both said too much already. This trip has been such a strain. Let's not argue about it.
There's no argument. As far as I'm concerned, it's all settled. It's finished. I've been trying for a long time to save this marriage. Now I realize there was nothing worth saving.
You can mean it.
Better start packing. I'll tell the others you're not coming down to dinner. I'll make arrangements for you to get back to New York.
You're going to regret this, Jerry.
I don't think so. I'll live and I'll do very well without you. And without your help. I'll start packing. Do you intend going back to Texas?
The devil with you and Texas.
You leave Texas out of this.
Thank
Would
you.
you like another cocktail, Mrs. Burns?
Oh, thank you. No, I want to enjoy the wine.
It isn't everyone who has that appreciation of wine. Well, that's quite a creation you're wearing, Mrs. Baxter.
Thank you very much.
Ah, there you are, Talbot, at last.
Greetings. We're well into our drinks.
Will Mrs. Talbot be down soon?
No, I'm sorry to have to tell you she's gone back to New York. She's not feeling well.
I do hope it isn't anything serious.
No, it's nothing to worry about. She has a special medicine, but unfortunately, she left it at the hotel.
Will she return?
No.
Tony.
Yes, sir?
Tony, remind me to send flowers to Mrs. Talbot in the morning.
That won't be necessary, Mr. Gifford.
No? I guess it won't.
Thank you.
To a long and happy life. Evelyn, I must compliment you. That was an excellent mousse.
Isn't anyone else going to try the dessert?
I couldn't eat another bite.
I'm sure it's delicious, but...
I'm on a kind of diet.
I'm not too hungry.
Except for my sadistic brother, no one at this table has touched one bite of food since we sat down.
Well, I have, Mother. And I can assure all of you the dinner was delicious.
Ernest, you've given us a very bad hour. Why not make the announcement and get it over with?
Very well. I'd like, if I may, to begin with a slight resume of the three gentlemen involved. Baxter, Burns, Talbot, whether you're the choice or not, be assured that I have a high regard for all of you, and I'd hate to face the task of finding men who could replace you.
Ernest, get on with it.
All right, Evelyn. Baxter, in our discussions, we've disagreed markedly at times, but that doesn't mean you've been wrong.
Oh, I wouldn't be too sure of that, Mr. Gifford. After all, you're much older and wiser.
As I was about to say, Baxter, I like your spunk, and I think you have all the qualifications of a general manager. Burns, you're the type of man a company can point to with pride, up from the ranks and mastering every job we've given you. I'm sure you can do the same thing with the most important job in the company. Talbot, I think you have that X plus that makes a big man big. But there was something that made me doubt that you could ever function successfully as a general manager. A handicap. And frankly, it made me decide against you. I was convinced that you were not aware of this handicap, and I wanted to call it to your attention. An opportunity came my way that gave me a chance to do so. I can only guess at the results, but this much I know. That suddenly you did become aware of it and had the courage to get rid of it. And just as suddenly, I'd found my new general manager. Congratulations.
Oh. I can't tell you what a surprise this is.
Liz, I prayed I wouldn't get it. I honestly prayed.
Oh, when he put his hand on you, my heart stopped beating.
I told you he was a smart cookie.
Isn't anyone going to congratulate the winner? I'm so happy for you.
Yes, and
thank you.
Congratulations. Let me know when I can be of any
Thank you
help.
very much.
This is fine with me. I'm not demanding a recount.
I think Mr. Gifford's to be congratulated, too.
Thank you. Anderson, these people are starving. You may start serving dinner again. Ladies, gentlemen. You must be very happy. Jerry, you sit here.
This, starved. Boy, what a relief.
Sid, remind me to tell you. One moment, please. May I propose an after-dinner toast before dinner? To our new general manager and the two brightest stars in his team. May your success continue to keep me wealthy. And to these lovely ladies, already wealthy in charm and grace and happiness. You know, it's a wonderful world. A great, big, wonderful woman's world. That's because men are in it. Thank you.
It's a